Congressman Bob Ney is with us, former congressman from Ohio's 18th Congressional District in the House of Representatives from 95 until 2006, where he resigned. Bob, great to talk to you again.
Nice to talk to you, David. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're doing kind of a retrospective on the 10 years since 9/11, and you on 9/11 were involved with security of the Capitol, and you oversaw Capitol Hill Police as head of House administration. So where were you, first of all, on the day that on 9/11? How did you first hear about it? What decisions did you have to make?
Well, I was in the personal office in the Longworth building, and the first plane flew in. When the second one flew in, well, we knew it was a terrorist act, so I went up to House Administration that oversees Capitol Hill Police and security, and we immediately got on the phone with the Sergeant of Arms. And David, through a unique, weird twist, one of our attorneys was late from a dental appointment, was on a cell phone coming across the bridge, and as I had the Sergeant of Arms on my right ear, Fred Hay was on the left ear, and he started yelling a plane he believed was going into the Pentagon. He could see the plane coming down. So we actually communicated with the Sergeant of Arms that a plane was going in the Pentagon before it actually went in. So the evacuation alarm was pulled, and 10,000 some people were evacuated. The second time since 1812, the Capitol was fully evacuated.
And how many minutes are we talking from the time that you received that phone call until the explosion at the Pentagon?
I would say about 8 or 9 seconds actually passed. And then the plane was going into the Pentagon. We were pulling the evacuation bell for the Capitol to, tell people to leave. And I can remember our intelligence then told us in 14 minutes, I can remember, David, specifically, 14 minutes, a plane inbound from Pennsylvania, they said, will hit the Capitol. And they just told everybody to run.
And then when you went, at that point, I'm guessing you were outside. And what do you remember? What took place? Where did you next go? How long are we talking here?
We just all headed in every direction. It was chaos. None of the cell phones worked. And eventually I had a BlackBerry, which nobody knew what that was. There were 200, David, on Capitol Hill. Today there's 6,000. That BlackBerry later said, go to an undisclosed location. By the time I got there, Gephardt was there, who had been the speaker before, Gingrich. Gephardt was there, Tom DeLay, maybe about 12 or 14 members of the House and the Senate were there, because there was no way to contact people. Now, later on, everybody wanted a BlackBerry, and that's how Steny Hoyer, our ranking member, and I gave BlackBerries to members of Congress. It was the only thing that worked in D.C. that day.
Did you, for the rest of the day, we heard, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush were kept separated for a while. George W. Bush, well, first he was in Florida, then he stayed on Air Force One for some time. What was the rest of that day for you like?
We stayed at the Capitol Hill Police Headquarters for a while. Steny Hoyer, who is now the number 2, Democrat in the country, he's one of the leaders of the House on the minority side, was the ranking member of our committee. Steny and I talked to the members of Congress because they were trying to speculate what happened, and we wanted basically, before they would go out in the media and say, Congress is not functioning, we're not members of Congress, because that was the attitude by some of them, not all of them, but, well, we want to be able to do something. We want to go back and vote. But there was no way we could reopen that Capitol.
What decisions did you have to make as far as security went that day? Were there, an interesting question also might be, what did you decide not to do that could have maybe changed the course of that day?
That's actually the jackpot question, because people were coming up with ideas, hundreds of them. Shut down the Capitol, put a wall around it, you name it. The ideas came forth, both absurd but also good ideas from members. So we formed this group. But after that, for 6 solid months, it was decision after decision to change the face of the Capitol. I would say we made probably over 150 to 200 some major decisions on upgrading the Capitol, BlackBerries, security in offices, how to communicate, you name it, we had to do it. And on the heels of that, of course, came an anthrax attack later, which we had to, again, re-evacuate the Capitol.
So that night, was there a decision about, do we have to stay here? Does everybody go home? What happens that first night?
Well, there were some members the first night that were very, very upset. They felt, and I'm not questioning, whether they were right or wrong, but they felt they needed to be physically in the Capitol. We needed to have a session. It needed to be on C-SPAN. The country needed to know that we were there. That was the feeling. Steny Hoyer and I and our leaders, Speaker Hastert and Mr. Gephardt, both felt that, the best thing to do is let this be in the hands, at least for the next couple of days, of the Capitol Hill Police. Don't open up a floor session. We didn't know what was next. The country would understand that, there was nothing that particular time we could do by having a session of Congress. What are you going to vote on?